Imagine having an AI-powered search engine for candidate profiles from across the open web and even from within your own ATS. Well, that's exactly what HireTool is. HireTool is a global talent platform that serves all recruiters, from small businesses to the world's largest enterprises. And with 750 million plus profiles from over 45 open web sources and channels and 30 plus integration partners, there's literally something for everyone. Recruiters can find more talent with AI sourcing, send unlimited emails, and integrate with your favorite recruitment tools all in one platform. If you're spending hours looking for qualified candidates, underrepresented talent, and updated contact information, then HireTool is probably what you need for your toolkit. HireTool is a platform that helps great recruiters accomplish more every single day. Check them out at hiretool.com.
Hey, what's up, everybody? HR Famous is the podcast. You know the team. I don't have to introduce the team, but it's part of the ritual here. I've got Tim Sackett and Jessica Lee coming to you from the greater, like if you expanded Detroit by like 150 miles, Tim's coming to you from Detroit. Jessica's coming to you from the DMV, is what I hear, otherwise known as the DC area. Jessica, I'll go to you first. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I know last time I reported on the cicadas, and the cicadas are now gone. So life is great in the DMV. It's great.
Wow.
It's fantastic.
I was in the DMV like, a week ago? It must have been a week and a half ago. Tyson's Corner, that's really Virginia, right?
Fancy. Tyson's Corner is like where all the money is.
Well, that's where I like to hang out, JLee.
You two know that I like you two know that I like to read, right?
Yeah.
Hard copy books. Yes. Mm-hmm. You know what though?
Yeah,
we never talk magazines. About book things.
Well, I'm going to give you a book now, JLee, because we brought up Tyson's Corner. One of my favorite books of all time is a book called Edge City. And what they do is they preview, well, I guess they profile is the better way to say it. They profile suburban areas. And the whole theory, this was written like 25 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, is that a suburban area becomes its own city when it has like a certain amount. I think it's like maybe 2 or 3 million of leasable commercial real estate. Because once they get to that level, housing sets up like around, to use the term, this edge city outside of DC. If you take Tyson's Corner as an example, in everything, culture, like shopping, restaurants, everything goes around that once they get to that critical mass of commercial real estate. It's amazing. I'm so glad I brought this up. I'm so glad we're talking about Tyson's Corner. Anyway, JLee, it's got Tyson's Corner, and it shows that it's a farm back in the 50s or 60s, literally a farm. Like there's nothing there and it explodes.
You know what Tyson's Corner's like little phrases? Their phrases, America's next great city. So when you drive into Tyson's Corner, you see signs, welcome to Tyson's Corner, America's next great city. You heard it here first.
Do you buy it?
Yeah, I thought it was nice. Like they built the metro all the way out there, right? Now you can just take the metro.
Did.
Yeah.
It's called like a big suburb, right?
Yeah.
Tyson's, yes. It's a big suburb, but you know what? That's where you go shopping. That's where you go shopping.
So great city, probably, maybe a stretch, right? Maybe a stretch. Good suburb. Like
great suburb.
How about a tagline? How about a tagline that says, "We're a pretty good suburb"? Would that be good? Like on the sign?
That's where I live. That's where I live.
Speaking of America,
home of 2 PF Chang's.
Speaking of America, we're taping this right before the 4th of July. It'll drop right after the 4th. Tim Sackett, 4th of July plans.
My dad is having like a little 4th of July get together. So we're heading out there. And usually it's just my wife and I, because the boys always are like, we don't want to go to Grandpa's cookout, right? Like it's all like aunts and uncles and people that are going to hug them that they haven't seen for a year. And so they always find a way to get out of that. But this year, like all of a sudden, like my older son Keaton And a couple of his buddies are like, "Hey, can we come?" And we're like, look at him like, "Wow, you're that bored?" Like, "Sure, come on out." And they're like, "Well, it's free drinks and free meal, you know."
Tim, what do you? And I'll go to JLee next. Tim, what do you wear like on the 4th? What's the Tim Sackett like go to? You know, I've got one that I'm going to tell the world about. But what do you go to?
Well, I always have some specialty T-shirt that I'll get in, but then Mrs. Kim actually buys the Old Navy 4th of July flag T-shirts. She's done that for literally, since probably 20 years since Keaton was born. You know, he's actually older than that, so he's 23, 24. So I can't remember a year where we didn't have a picture of us in those stupid Old Navy T-shirts. You know, so and then she gets them for everybody. Like she must buy like 25 of these things because if you're with us, you have to put on one of those damn T-shirts just for the picture. And now the kids have gotten to the point where they'll get them and they cut them up and they have like tank tops out of them or whatever. Like, and all Keaton's friends come over and they all have them and they cut them up and do crazy stuff. But yeah, so we do the Old Navy T-shirts with the American flag, but I'll usually have like, you know, back-to-back World War champs, stuff like that. Like I kind of, you know, I'll get aggressive. Yeah.
Back to back. Got it. JLee, what do you have? Like, what's the plan on the 4th, and what's your standard go-to? What do you like? Do you have a costume? I didn't want to say fashion, right? I'm dipping into like bad, like guy to gal type stuff, right? It's awkward. What do you wear, JLee? I'll ask it the way I'm supposed to ask.
So because I'm in the DMV, the fireworks spectacular that is in Washington, D.C. is like none other. And it is just really exciting that we can do that again this year. Not that I'm going to go down right onto the mall and be with the crowds, but like you have to partake in the DC fireworks in this area because they are spectacular. And then as for what we're wearing, I don't know what I'm wearing, but I know what my children are wearing. They could basically be adopted by the Sacketts because they will be wearing Old Navy 4th of July gear, which really makes me wonder how much of a blip on like revenue does Old Navy have? Because everyone buys those Old Navy shirts. It's crazy.
Everybody. Yeah.
Everybody.
By the way, the other one I really like, Katie, is like, it's like fireworks, like leader or someone, and it says, "If I run, you run," right? Because I'm the guy too that in the neighborhood that always lights the fireworks. And I can't tell you, like, you literally light it and then you take off. Like, you know, all the little kids are like so interested in that, like they want to get in there. And you're like, yeah, if I'm running, you're running. You guys stay with me. You know, and some kid falls. Yeah, it's completely crazy.
So I'll be at the lake. And Jessica, you may or may not know this. Tim knows this. You know, he's got the back-to-back like World War champs like T-shirt. I have one that is in the same vein but goes back a little bit further. I've got a Barstool T-shirt. One big word, yikes. And then the subscript is the quote. It says England 1776.
Hey, Jay, I've actually been to the mall one time for the fireworks spectacular on the mall. So I had a buddy that was in DC. It was actually Kim was, so this was 24 years ago because Kim was pregnant with Keaton 8 months. And the guy didn't really tell us what to expect. We thought, like, coming from Michigan, we're just going to go down to the mall, watch the fireworks, and it'll be great. And he's like, well, there's all day kind of thing. Well, 8 months pregnant, you have to pee like every 13 minutes. She literally spent the entire day just standing in line to go to the porta potty. That was the entire day for her. But by the way, the fireworks were amazing. The most spectacular thing I've ever seen.
Amazing. And you can see it from so many different places. So it's amazing.
So that allows our listeners to visualize what we just came off of. Bunch of different experiences. It's really America. Let's get back to work, though. So by the time most people are listening to this, they're heading back into the office. We've got 2 topics today here on HR Famous. First one I want to talk about is one of the downfalls that I'm seeing. I want to get everybody's take on this and kind of chop it up a little bit. One of the downfalls related to all the hiring at scale that's going on. So there's a lot of pent-up demand. And the economy, the post-COVID economy is rebounding. People are hiring. The job market is tough. Here's what I'm seeing. And Jessica, I'll start with you. I am seeing a lot of colleagues and even a little bit of burn ourselves, but colleagues, a little bit on our side, clients, they're hiring at scale. They're hiring a lot of people. They're trying to get a lot of people in the door as just this rebound happens. And you know what's happening, JLee? Even if they had a decent onboarding program, and by onboarding, I mean, hey, the first couple of days, but also like a training program. And then I'm really talking about how do you stay connected to that person as they enter into late first month, second month, third month? How do you stay connected, make sure everything's all right? We are seeing more fast churn, JLee, like coming out of this. So we've got like clients hiring hundreds of people a month, and there's more fast churn than there's ever been. And I think it's because we're so like swamped by all the activity going inside the organization, JLee. And the other thing is, this job market is tight. And if things aren't perfect, people know that they can drop whatever they're doing. They probably had another offer on the table, or maybe they didn't take themselves off the market and there's another offer in front of them. It's really risk-free on their part to leave in the first month, the first 2 months, even the first 3 months. Have you seen anything like that, JLee?
Yes. But I have a follow-up question for you. Are you seeing any differences between, are these people working on site somewhere, or are they virtual?
Well, I mean, it's a good thing. It's a mix, right? I think it's easier, to your point, and you comment on this, to stay connected if you're on site. I think if you're hybrid or you're 100% remote, you're probably even more at risk. And by the way, JLee, back to you, I think the muscle memory isn't there for the vast majority of companies to manage that, right?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I think that this is an issue we could probably spend like a good hour talking about, but we won't, because I think like the desire to get people up to speed as quickly as possible, get them deployed, not investing the same kind of energy we might in more traditional times to really onboard and settle someone in. Like there's a lot of temptation there for companies to do this. And I think that they are going to see exactly what you're saying. I actually love this as like a metric, like the concept of like a quick quit, and
quick churn,
yeah,
right.
Quick churn, quick quit, whatever you want to call it. I feel like we spent a lot of time talking about turnover, but in general, even outside of a pandemic time period, the notion of like quick quits as a metric, I think, is really important. And I think about it from like a hotel perspective. Like we actually use that when we're opening a hotel for the first time, and we invest all this time and energy in getting these people bought in, up to speed, trained to be able to open the doors of the hotel. And that quick quit metric is something that's like really important to us. And so I think like people need to get this on dashboards, and we need to be talking about it. But it also raises like this question of like age old in the space of HR, like who owns onboarding and like who's really accountable for it. And I don't feel like a lot of people have that nailed.
Yeah. And my reaction, and Tim will bring you in on this, my reaction to that, JLee, I agree with all that. I like, quick quit, quick churn. I like probably quick quit is a more powerful message there. To your point, JLee, and Tim, over to you, when you say, I'm not sure that anybody really owns it. One of the things I've seen, Tim, is I see managers bringing people in and being not sensitive enough to know what's at risk in this like job, like, this very much seller's world of if you're a candidate, you have a lot of options. We're scaling a lot of people up. And if it's not perfect, Tim, they don't adjust their expectations, and maybe they don't give the person what they need. So you have these broad onboarding plans, but then, when you actually onboard, let's say 2 people on your team, you're not in tune to how they're viewing the world, and it's your platform, and this is the way we do it, and you're not adjusting.
Yeah, no, I mean, Katie, you and I both do like recruiting diagnostics throughout the year. And I just had a couple, like 3 in the last like 3 months where companies are like, holy crap, we're desperate to fix our crap, right? Because of the issues at play that everybody's facing. And there's a common thread that I found in all of them, which is the recruiter, like we look at recruiter capacity and like what they're actually doing on a day-to-day basis across to everybody. And I'm finding like these recruiters are spending anywhere from like 10 to 30% of their full capacity on onboarding And not because they necessarily want to, right? The company wants them to recruit, and not because they don't have anybody that will own it. They had somebody in HR, or they had somebody in ops, right, that was going to own onboarding. But though, like you said, it's that muscle memory side of maybe new muscle memory, right? Because what's happening and what the recruiters were finding was when I handed over to HR, they treat these candidates so roughly. I wouldn't say bad, but they just treat them with so like what they feel is almost disrespect. Like, hey, I need this from you, and why aren't you getting me this, and blah blah blah. And they're already treating them like they're a long-term employee. Like I can just push you around because I'm in HR, right? And these employees are then just taking off. And so recruiters just said, no, we're not going to let you talk to HR, and we're going to walk you through the process ourselves because we don't want HR to actually screw this placement up for us, and we want to make it through. And when I talk to the head of HR, their heads just kind of bow down. They know that their HR people are treating them like this, so now we're trying to figure out like workarounds. Like, hey, how can we hire somebody from marketing or sales or like to onboard people? Or really what it should be is like your training department, because they're usually great with working with employees. And yet, so there's this common issue that we're seeing across the board where I can't increase capacity because we're so concerned about onboarding and getting people to start that our recruiters are taking on that role.
It's interesting you bring HR into it. My example was managers of people when they onboard the team aren't sensitive enough to what's really important to individuals, right? So they give them, Tim, I forget the words you use, but hey, this is the way we do it. It's kind of the thing, hey, this is just the platform.
Yeah.
So we had a person who, for a client, came in, we recruited them from the right type of company, salesperson, and they were very money focused. Okay. And it was appropriate for the client in question. And they had a lot of experience. And, guess what the manager did because they thought it was the right thing to do. Part of the training is, hey, for the first like 3 or 4 weeks, you're going to shadow Junior. And you're going to do work sourcing leads on Junior's behalf to learn the business. And, it blew up. And I'm like, well, of course it blew up. And by the way, recruiters spending more time. So I like on the flip side, I've been recruiting recruiters at Kinetics because we're in a big like ramp up and we're doing well on that. And I'm really trying to do my best to check in with people. So I believe the 10 to 30% onboarding for the recruiters who don't trust the HR people. But JLee, I feel like, like the statement I made on managers is out there. I don't view like a CHRO, a crow, if you will, to use JLee like language. Love the language, by the way. I don't feel like a crow should just give up and hire a marketing person because the HR people are just too administrative to get the fact that they've got to sell, right, JLee? Like we shouldn't give up on that. Am I right or am I wrong?
Have you ever wondered what really makes a generation tick? Who gets to pick the name? And why the slang keeps changing? Don't worry, I can help. My name's Dr. Megan Grace. On #GenZ, I share the voices and experiences of Generation Z, how they're different from other generations, what moves them, and why they do what they do. In each episode, we go beyond the buzzwords and the stereotypes to dive into real conversations and the insights that matter to making intergenerational collaboration a reality. You can catch #GenZ on the Work to Find podcast network and wherever you listen to podcasts.
No, you're right. You're right, sir. You are right. It's like, I actually think you could treat onboarding similar to, let's say, the concept of culture. Like, it is not a single person's job, a single function's job. Like, I think the recruiter has a role to play. I think HR and learning have a role to play. But like the most important person for me is the manager. And like, if a manager were to feel like, oh, well, HR, whether it's L&D or, recruiting or HR proper, HR is going to take care of the onboarding. That's the issue. Like, you got to have everyone all in, but most importantly, the manager. I think it all comes down to that.
You know, the
I think you're
difficult
right.
piece though, JLee, the difficult piece with that is when we have like multiple people owning something as critical as pre-boarding, onboarding, is it tends to fall apart because we always think, oh, well, HR is doing their stuff and I'm doing my stuff and we're all doing a piece of it and no one's really controlling the whole of it and making sure everything is getting done at the level we expect to get it done. So I still think when you see the best onboarding, somebody's owning the full thing. There might be segments of that, like, hey, payroll is going to do a piece and HR is going to do a piece and training is going to do a piece. And the manager obviously has, pieces throughout, but there's somebody there that's like, hey, I want to make sure at the end of the day, I'm responsible for this person actually showing up and having success. And again, like you said, it might be the manager, right? But then we're going to put that into that role, which many companies wouldn't do. They're like, oh, we can't do that to our managers, right? We have to treat them like freaking China dolls, and we just won't do that. And so they literally will, take every piece of that away. And then we go back and say, oh, well, you treated them like crap and that you lost them. It's like, well, there has to be, I don't know, there has to be some organizational, like larger ownership or individual ownership of like, hey, I'm going to make sure this person has a great experience. And like, maybe your point, maybe it should be the manager and we just aren't making it happen.
So I think
your throat to choke.
Yeah. So I think ownership, hey, who's responsible for this whole thing? I think that's good. But an HR, like an average HR person, okay, and we've all known average to below average HR person, hey, they'll run that process. But you know what they won't do? And this is like where the manager comes in. They won't, like the most important part of that whole process is what you could define the time frame. Is it 3 weeks in? Is it 5 weeks in? Is it 8 weeks in? It's probably all of those. The most important thing is the question, hey, how are we doing? Like, how is this going for you? And then you listen, right? You like stop talking and listen. You don't go to the checklist. You don't like send them a survey like with these, hey, how are we doing? And you probe them. What could be better? Like if they don't automatically give you things, what could be better? And then it's really up to, for the most part, that manager, if they really value talent. That's why, like, good managers like really have their own culture inside a company.
Hey,
like,
Katie.
Like,
oh, go ahead.
Let me say this, Tim, and then I'll throw it to you and you can wrap it up and we'll move on because I want to talk about politics in the workplace. Another light topic.
Again.
I think the, good manager can overcome bad onboarding and a bad manager can ruin good onboarding. Back to you, Tim.
There's a piece of this onboarding thing that's relationship based. That's why recruiters do so well, right? Because if you're a good recruiter and you build that relationship with a candidate, now you're invested, right? You care what happens to this candidate. So maybe this is a piece, Jay, back to your, like the manager should own this, is great onboarding. If it starts with the manager, we have to have some kind of mechanism that makes that manager build a relationship right away with that candidate. But I don't know what that is, right? I mean, there's all kinds of things like, hey, there's an hour that you're just going to sit and you're going to ask these questions with, back and forth, and you guys are going to actually learn about each other versus, because we think we do that in the interview, but you don't really learn the person, right? Mm-mm. But it's because as soon as that manager has the relationship of that person, everything's going to be fine. They'll make sure that person's taken care of because now they're vested from a relationship standpoint. And again, it's why we see so many recruiters spending time is because they have the relationship.
That's so true. And, the other thing is if I put my old recruiter hat back on, that was actually always one of like the most painful things to me. Well, there were other painful things, but something that I actually always disliked was you spend so much time building a relationship and then it's like, we don't talk to each other anymore. Like you come join and then I'm like, I don't see you. We don't talk. Like we were like really like wooing each other and had something good going. And I always felt so weird about it. Like seeing someone in the hallway and like, gosh, we don't talk anymore. Like,
hey, I would wrap it up this way, ladies and gentlemen. I would say that an organization's greatest strength, like handing somebody off to onboarding, is a great recruiter. And also an organization's greatest weakness can be a great recruiter, like on onboarding, because the expectations get set so high. Like you sell them, recruiting is sales. You sell them, you believe everything you're selling them on. And then they go through average HR onboarding and they get kind of handled rough, like they're in the cattle pen, and they go to an average manager and it can all go to hell. Well, I think all of us would say, keep your eye on this because people have options. And just because you did all the right things and you onboarded them, it can all go to hell quickly. And we're seeing it increasingly in this post-COVID environment where the workforce, like the recruiting, is already tight. People are quick quitting, to use the JLee term that's on her dashboard. Quick quits are in effect. So keep your eye on that. All right, I'm going to segue. We got 10 minutes or a little bit less. It really pains me because I want to dig deeply into this topic. JLee hates that this is coming. Politics in the workplace. Hey, probably 8 to 9 episodes ago, we dug in a little bit. Correct me if I'm wrong. We dug in a little bit to one company where eliminating or attempting to eliminate political conversation as a significant part of the workday went horribly wrong. JLee, do you have that one off the top of your head? Who was that?
Basecamp, right?
It's Basecamp. Thank you. It was Basecamp. Small software company with probably 50 or 60 employees. They didn't do a great job. They kind of mangled it. And I think shortly thereafter, in the next couple of weeks, there was a new kind of version of this that came out. And I want to talk about it a little bit because it came back on my radar screen. The company is Shopify, which is a company based in Canada. I believe they're in the Toronto, they're in the Ottawa area, where our friends from the old Halogen, Saba, now Cornerstone, we've got a bunch of friends up there. One of the great companies of Canada. What they do is they enable e-commerce for people that are trying to keep their money out of Amazon's pockets and have their own e-commerce thing. So they do these incredible online shops. I want to say this is the biggest example I've seen where somebody made a stand against politics in the workplace and it being divisive. So Shopify CEO, Toby Lutke, I hope I'm saying that right. JLee's always my guide with this. Is that good enough, JLee? For now?
Love it.
Lutke, I'm rolling the U. I want to read, this is from a bigger email that he sent to all employees. I'm going to read the whole thing. And then Tim, I'm coming to you first. We're going to break it down in 2 pieces. So I'm taking a piece of this and I'm kind of mending it together for the most important stuff. So here's what he said in an email to employees where he tried to put the company on lockdown from being distracted by politics, which, by the way, in 2020 is increasingly defined by social causes, right? So politics has changed since 2016. By the way, and I don't want to ramble too much. I want to get to the note. I've been against politics in the workplace all the way back to 2016 when I saw a lot of small business owners sending emails to 200 people in their company and saying, don't vote for Hillary.
Yeah.
That was actually a thing back in 2016. It was bad form then. I think it's bad form now, although it's changed. Here's what he said. Toby Lutke from Shopify. We're not a family. We're a team. You came to Shopify to work with great people. Our record on liberal values and equality of opportunity is well defined. Sometimes we see opportunities to help nudge these causes forward. We do this because this directly helps our business and our merchants and not because of some moralistic overreach. Here's the key. Slack trolling, victimhood thinking, us versus them divisiveness, and zero-sum thinking must be seen for the threat they are. They break teams. Teams survive and thrive on the actions of the collective and the cohesiveness of the whole. Poor performance and divisiveness cannot be tolerated. So I was going to break this up, but I'll just go to you, Tim. I thought, especially for someone who leans liberal and leans left, I thought it was a super meaningful thing. And I thought he really did a good job defining it. It's part of a much bigger email, but those are probably the most important parts. What's your reaction to that, Tim?
I think it's what every leader, whether you're a leader of a small business all the way up to large enterprise, is struggling with, is saying, look, we do care about all of our employees, right? But at the end of the day, this is a business. We're a team. We have to be effective. And divisiveness is going to cause problems and it's going to cause us to be less effective. And ultimately, it's going to hurt the entire whole, right? The entire business is going to be hurt by this. Thus, you can't let that continue. Now, that goes across the board, right? If so I think I mean, again, like I'm in agreement with it because I think, you come out and you go, look, we have to come to work. And many times there's going to be somebody that agrees or does something that I wouldn't do or I don't agree with. But if they're performing and doing the job that I need and we're being able to communicate effectively back and forth and share things and do whatever we have to do our jobs, great. That's good. You can go home. I can go home, and we're never going to hang out. Somehow, like throughout the world, over the last few years, we've gotten to this point where it's like, no, we all need to be this one big giant family that we're going to be living together. And you're like, no, that's not the case. Like, it doesn't have to be that way. From that standpoint, you're not going to force your beliefs or values on me. I'm not going to force or, those same things on you, but we all have a job to do to get the job done and do it in a way that you're going to be most effective. Seems like, the kind of the way to go forward. And again, yet we still have like a percentage of the population that totally disagrees with that,
Well, I think, Tim, that, part of the reason is, 2016, when I wrote about the fact that a lot of small business owners like don't vote for Hillary, how to vote. They're sending emails out on that. They're talking about Obamacare. Those were simpler times, right? That's like the easy thing. And Jessica,
and by the way, Katie, those aren't racist emails that those owners were sending. They were sending that because it's going to cost the companies a lot more money, right? So this is a financial thing. But yet it's so easy to say, oh, we're going to turn it into something else, right?
Well, and I want to say that like back then, I don't think it was viewed like that, but it's become, Jessica, much more complex, and the lines are even grayer because political issues are now, for the most part, social issues. A lot of the activism inside companies is related to that. A lot of the causes that brands might like support and launch into, they can then cause activism. It's not just politics, right? It's not Hillary versus whoever. It's like social causes that are identified with political platforms, Jessica. And that makes all this like a lot more murky, right?
Yeah, it does make it murky. And I the thing though with his email, which I thought was really well written and really interesting to dissect and dig into, is like everyone's going to make a decision for what makes sense for their company and the stance that they're going to take. And like the thing that we would think that there's one right way to do it or a way that it's supposed to be done, I think is maybe a bit, preposterous for me. Like your company is going to have different culture, different values, and that's what makes you you, and you'll attract people accordingly. I think the thing that's interesting of what he did though is, I don't know that I've seen someone so like overtly say this. Like one of the things that's interesting is that he says we have liberal values. We've right. taken a stance on things that lean and bend towards equality, but and there's opportunity to nudge these causes forward, as he says. But I think the thing that he does here is also say this is actually because we believe that there are there's an opportunity to help our business. It's not because of moral reasons or because we believe like it's our place to reach into these moral issues that we're doing it. We're doing this because we're a business and we think that it's a business opportunity. And you just don't see people saying it so overtly and publicly very often. And instead it's, I believe in this thing because it's the right thing and it's the right thing by our people or it's the right thing by our customers, to make it a moral issue as opposed to a business issue. And so, the fact that he was willing to go there, I thought it was really, ballsy and interesting and like just refreshing that like this is his point of view. This is the reason why we do it, as opposed to trying to be something else, which makes the whole thing less polarizing at the end of the day. So
I don't think
kudos.
I'll say this. I don't think the best practice here is to be for the right thing. Like it doesn't have to be binary, right? It doesn't have to be either or. And I think the master stroke here is he pointed out both his and Shopify's record on the social causes in question. JLee, I think his politics and the company's politics, I did a little research. I think it's more liberal than just like because it makes business sense. And he took credit for that. And then he also added and it makes business sense, right? But I think the great leadership here, like if you're going to try and like just tamper it down and get back to business, I think you have to be, Tim, for the right things. I'll bring you back in. I think you have to be for the right things. You have to clearly state that, but then you have to say, but we're not spending 10% of our time, like on Slack, chopping all this up, like back to work. Tim?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's the right thing. I do find, I'm wondering if you guys see this, like non-American CEOs speak much more bluntly about reality, right? They're much more transparent. And it probably because the cancel culture is a little bit less as you get to other countries than it is in America. Plus, in America, we tend to over PR our CEOs to the point where when they say something or they release something, it's so washed between legal and PR and everybody that there's no, possible way this could be taken out of context, blah, blah, blah. And then when you get somebody that's real, you're like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. You're like, well, it's probably closer to what, reality is for around the world than it is just here in America. I think we're so cautious about saying anything sometimes. Like even like our leaders are becoming politicians in a way, right? If you listen to any like modern if you listen to any modern politician, they never say anything of consequence. They talk in circles, So
in the big companies for sure. Well, I think to Jessica's point, I'll like wrap this up this way. I think to Jessica's point, both of you brought up good points. Jessica, you brought up slightly better points than Tim. I'm joking, Tim. But I think there's no one size fits all. That is true. It's different for every company. However, if you want to get people back, a best practice is first of all, take credit. You have to be for the right things. Like you have to like clearly state that you're for the right things. It helps to have a track record like with that in terms of what your position's been. And then I'll just end it this way. Like you can't do any better. Like if you're an HR leader out there and you're trying to like guide your CEO or whoever, you can't do any better. I'm just going to read this again and then we're going to get out of here. You can't do any better than the following: Slack trolling, victimhood thinking, us versus them divisiveness, and zero-sum thinking must be seen for the threat they are. They break teams. Teams survive and thrive on the actions of the collective and the cohesiveness of the whole. Like if you say what you're for and you have a track record of that and you say, you know what, we're going to get back to business and here's like what we believe, you should just change like 3 or 4 words to mean something different, cut and paste that, like into your email. That's how I feel. Closing thoughts, Tim?
Yeah, that might turn into that you end up firing 2 people, right, on both sides. 2 people that are arguing about an issue. We tend to want to like say, oh, This one's right, this one's wrong. Nope, you're both divisive. You're both out of here.
Jessica loves it when we talk sports. Double technical. Double foul. The ultimate like cop out, but also just tampering down like the whole thing. Jessica, you love it when we talk sports, right? Double technical.
Love it. I do.
All right. That's it for HR Famous. Be on the lookout for pictures. Everybody should go scan Tim Sackett's feed when you're listening to this on Instagram. And also Jessica Lee's feed. I'm assuming we'll see Old Navy t-shirts of Old Glory out there, cut up in a variety of ways, cut up in a variety of fashionable ways, especially on Jessica Lee's end. All right, that's it for Tim Sackett, Jessica Lee. I'm Chris Dunn. That's HR Famous for this week. Until next week, we are out.